and welcome to another episode of Stuck About Mind podcast. I am your host, Wize. And as you know, I've been not having scheduling the show much frequently because of transition I'm going through at work. But I'm excited to be able to bring you an episode this week. Let's jump right into it. So, excuse me. My guest today is someone who understands leadership from both a deeply personal and highly strategic perspective. She is a leadership strategist, speaker, and creator of the HEARTnomics framework, helping organizations align people, purpose, and performance so they can thrive without chaos, burnout, or constant rework. Her expertise comes from nearly decades inside organizations, serving as a CEO, board chair, and executive director, while leading teams through growth, disruption, and recovery. She's also a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, a Baldrige Excellence Examiner, and part of the John Maxwell Leadership Faculty. But her perspective began long before the boardroom. As a child, she survived severe heart disease and pioneered a heart procedure that taught her a lesson she still carries today. When systems lose rhythm, everything downstream struggles. Please welcome to the show, Hanna Bauer. Let me put you on. Here you go. Hey, there you go. Sorry about that.
Hi.
Hey, thank you for being a guest. I appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for your invitation.
So your leadership philosophy started with your own health journey.
Yes.
How did surviving health disease shape the way you see systems and leadership?
Oh my goodness. Well, that really, when you're surviving, I think a lot of things change, especially when you're a child and you don't understand what's going on. I was healthy until I was 4. So I really battled the heart disease for 10 years. And those are the formative years, right? I mean, it's like as a 5-year-old, like not understanding to breathe and seeing adults around me, like not being able to help me. It was interesting for one. Again, we don't learn from experience, we learn from reviewed experience. So a lot of my understanding now, what happened, is me as an adult looking back versus the child that was experiencing this, right? So what was I experiencing? I was experiencing the effects of very fast heartbeat, which is called tachycardia. And that would come from just anything. I could be sitting down talking to you, I could sneeze, or I could just go this way and suddenly poof, it would race. Now, tachycardia, really what it is a name for fast heartbeats, which makes sense when you're running. When you run, your heart goes fast. It just, that's how we survive. It means that your blood's pumping more. So in my case though, it was doing it not when I was walking or running, it was any point. So what did it do? It created this erratic rhythms, and along with that also, in order for my heart to reset, what it started happening was called arrhythmia. For some of you, understand arrhythmia is that you have normal. It's kind of even when you stop running, and it's like that in between space when like your heart's going really fast and now it's kind of slowing down, but it's like a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it kind of hurts, but it's good, right? Because it's gonna go back into normal. Well, I kind of lived in that gap. I lived in that painful gap in between that really fast, my heart trying to go slow, go normal, that it would just be dysfunctional. And in that dysfunction came the pain, came the coping, came the managing, came all of these other things that it was really survival. Fast forward, how has this impacted me? Well, I have found the same tachycardia, in a sense, in arrhythmia in organizations, with silos, with burnout, with not keeping a really, not even a steady pace, but always keeping it on that high, on the consistent performance without really giving the opportunity for rest. So how did it shape me is once I was an adult and, you know, normal in a sense, from my heart, I had started experiencing the same things as my heart when I was going through heart disease, except didn't have heart disease anymore. I was experiencing leadership, entrepreneurship, motherhood, and all of these things that came along with that, and really in a world that was being disrupted because my industry was a heavy print based industry, going with the change of the 2010 rise of the ebook into a world where we really didn't know what a digital business plan was. And I see that nowadays as well. We're having the rise of technology and AI. So a lot of what I face, both in my personhood, right, in my body, and also with my own business and in that industry, I now am seeing, but broad every industry at the same time globally, and that's how I'm able to serve clients.
So, but before becoming a leadership strategist, what was your path through business and leadership roles?
Well, as I mentioned, my upbringing was very difficult because I had heart disease and two heart attacks, so I wasn't necessarily allowed in school. So even the entire part of education was even such a question. But this is the thing, and this is really where I encourage anybody who's going through the hardship, any hardship really, that keeps you bound, is that your environment really is your teacher. So I started learning from my hospital bed. Actually, my first book that I wrote, Hustle with Heart, is a framework. That framework was born from being in the hospital for years at a time. It was in and out for weeks. So, how did it serve me? How did I go into leadership? Well, I never saw myself as a leader coming out. I have been essentially in a bubble. So then I come out, 1992. What happened was there was an opportunity for a never been done high risk heart procedure called an ablation, and I was a candidate. I was in the heart transplant list, but my doctor believed that my heart was really healthy. It just needed the electrical systems to be fixed. So what happened with this surgery, it was called now an ablation. They were able to give clarity so that the electrical pathways could then give those normal rhythms. So once I had that, and it revolutionized really the way that heart disease is now treated. I mean, it's even an outpatient surgery, and it's been incredible what they've been able to do with technology ever since then. Is I didn't know where to go. I had been so isolated. So the place where I went back to the hospital, not as a patient, but I wanted to volunteer because the volunteers had such a high impact in my life. And as I volunteered and as I served, there was another opportunity to go get trained and actually like be like a legit volunteer, like a legit like go out there into the community and do something. And that was the first time I was exposed to the whole concept that a leader serves. And now I didn't know what a leader was outside of the positional leadership, like there's a president, there there's the secretary, there are these these positional parts, right? So for me it was revolutionary to understand that, wow, I don't know what the leader is, but I know what service is, and I love service so much that therefore I made the connection. If I love to serve, then therefore I love to lead. So that's really the connection that happened to me as a teenager, as I was trying to find my way in the world. And service upon service, it opened up different doors. So I started in the hospital, then went over to organizations here in the state of Georgia. I was able to win scholarships with that. From that, I served in the university. I opened up community centers and community centers. Then it evolved into more to also serving in the student government. I then became president of the Senate. Then that opened doors to even in a whole other world, understanding governments, and then business. And from that, serving all the way to being elected in DC in the educational publishing, the American Association of Publishers, in 2016 to lead the industry. And really, I would say is that started all with servicehood. So did I set out to be a leadership strategist? Not at all. I wanted to serve. I fell in love with service, and leadership is service. Leadership evolved from that.
So you mentioned about service and everything, but you also so how do you know when organizations aren't broken because people didn't care, but because the systems weren't aligned with what they wanted?
Well, I think exactly that. And that is a difference. I have found both. I have found places where, hey, they're very people oriented, and trust is given, but there's no really clarity on how that trust can be executed. So that what does that look like? It looks like, hey, they're very highly committed to the leader. It may even be a very charismatic leader, and really the weight of it all, even though the leader consistently delegates or says it basically transfers that trust, there's really not a clear way to be able to measure what we're doing. So you see it in the lack of decision making. For example, that where the people, the team is consistently reliant upon the leader because they don't have a clear way to be able to decide this aligns or this doesn't align. So that's in a place where it's not the people, it's at the processes, because there's not a clear way for me. If the leader's not available for me to ask them something, I don't really know how to make that decision. And I may be too afraid of making that decision, not even because I'm afraid of the leader, but because I admire them so much, I don't want to fail them. So then you have stagnation. And then you have also a burned out leader who can't step away. This happens a lot of times with nonprofits because they haven't really transferred, they may have transferred their responsibility, somewhat the authority because they've said it, but they really haven't transferred the way that they do it because a lot of those processes and systems may live here. So they're able to decide in that part. So that's a way that you're able to see. You might be very people oriented, but the processes and the systems are your people making decisions. What are the quality of decisions that they're making? Those are two ways to be able to do it. If you're having to, as a leader, you stepped away, how could they think that? And I've had that. I have very good leaders that will say, well, why didn't they think about blah, 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 blah? And it's like, well, how would they know? So the question is at that point, the excellence question, when we're talking about systems and processes, is how do you know that they know? How do you know that they know to ask that? How do you know that they know what they can buy or not? How do you know that they know the budget for this event or for this task? And that's where you start seeing, like, well, they wouldn't know or they don't have access to the very things they need to be able to make those decisions. Access is a way to, when you provide access, it's a way to provide also a way to do processes and to be able to execute on those processes.
Absolutely. So, how do leaders know when their systems are not aligned?
Again, when you have a lot of times making decisions in the morning and in the afternoon you're trying to unmake them. That's right. Because you had
Mm.
the technology department got together this morning. They came up with a great plan, and hey, it has all this stuff. And by the afternoon, the finance department's like, where's the money? Where's the budget?
What can they do to improve it? What are the things like what are things they can start doing to get everybody on the same page and aligned?
Well, one of the things that the conversation, you may have heard the word silos. So silos are some of the things, right? Silos is when you're thinking also you're only talking to your system within your system, and you also think all the other systems serve this one system, right? So that's what happens all with departments. You're not talking to one another. So one of the things is not only talk, but you have to have a common language. And this is where culture comes in. Because even in things like, for example, when is something done? The culture will say what is done. To some people, oh yeah, yeah, it's almost done. Well, what does almost done mean? It's almost done mean this afternoon, almost done mean next week, almost done meaning what? Is it we're waiting on the third, or is it, oh yeah, it's done. And then 2 weeks later we still haven't been able to deliver to the client. Oh, I thought it was done. Oh yeah, yeah, we're just waiting on this. Then it's not done. So understanding the culture of even in simple things, even in the delivery, the handoff, speaking that common language. The processes that we're using, it doesn't help if your sales department is in a whole different software or program where it's not integrated to your finance program, and now it's going to have to cost this double work. So checking your technology, for example, is another way that you do it. How you align, is my technology integrated the same way with your things? You can buy the app, but if you don't have the right operating system, it's not going to work. If you don't update your system, it's also not going to work. It may have worked at one time, and then you updated one, but guess what? You can't just update one and not update the other one. So the same way it works in the business. When you're updating, also how you're communicating that update. How is that integrating into the things that we do? For that, it takes communication. For that, the culture is also going to be able to speak, and those are things that there's ways to be able to check in on as well. Productivity, turnover rate, the cost of things, It's what we look at even in the wastes of a business, right? How much overproduction you may have because you didn't know if we had enough. So you now overproduce, and now you have sitting inventory that you may not have a buyer for example. And that was just a lack again of communication of demand with the business. So again, it's being able to, where do I need to be looking at so that we can talk the same language?
So what is it? Okay, so I read anything I mentioned in the opening. You're a Lean Six Sigma black belt.
Yep.
Yeah, can you explain that to us?
Yeah, basically, it's a lot of data, but it's what we looked at. The whole thing is a methodology to go to 99.99999% accuracy. So you would think like, well, Hannah, what did you get into that, Hannah? I said, well, it was really survival. So I told you, we were being disrupted as a business. The market was changing. It was changing quicker than what we could adapt or that even that we could detect. How it was showing up, it was showing up in the bank account, going lower every month. It was showing up in the phone calls that were no longer happening, and it was showing up in like the future client, like hey, the inquiries that we needed to forecast the next quarter were not happening because when people are confused, they don't buy, and they knew whatever was going on, they wanted to wait and see. Well, we couldn't wait and see. As a business, you can't like put your entire business plan to do that. So if in a place where income was not sure, you start looking, well, where are my expenses? And that's where Lean Six Sigma really helped, is in looking at those expenses in a place where my customer was depending on the government because they needed to release the budget. Well, until that budget was released, at the time it was a freeze, then we nobody knew when they were going to be able to pay what they had ordered or order again. So how are we going to stay afloat at a time like that where we had to really learn to manage expenses? So what Six Sigma taught me at that point was that there was a lot of different wastes that were going on in place. Again, overproduction, over processing, inventory that even sits in your computer, all the files that you developed, and how long it takes you to go through all those files to find that one file that you need. Well, you multiply times 100 employees that may have been seconds, then you're really eating up a productivity. Then maybe you're having to look at overtime or paying people, having to hire more because we have so much expense in that. But really, for me, what Lean Six Sigma, as I started implementing, as I started looking for areas where not only we save in expenses, one particular waste really caught my attention. And that was the waste, what they call the loss of human potential. And it finally put a name to something that I had been feeling for a while, something that even like connected really deeply with me and with my heart, and really explained to me so many times why it was so hard to restart again even after the loss of somebody in the business. Anytime somebody left and all the knowledge that walked away, or even the unmet expectations from people that we hired that like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be awesome, this is great, we're gonna be able to do this, and not being able to tap into that genius that you knew what was there. So Lean Six Sigma also taught me that, which I then have it has become part of my big part of my mission is to go after that particular waste, because I really believe that's where innovation is. That's where it comes from the human potential.
So how can leaders stop fixing symptoms and start really solving their root problems?
By asking that. I think that's the first. That is honestly the first part. A lot of times it's the awareness. And let me tell you something. I don't know if that's happened. This has happened to you or not. But in the busyness, we don't take much time. We just kind of like we become the do, and not the do, but we just keep on doing. That could eventually become that if we don't take the time and see what is it that we are doing. And really we go so much from the busy and we're not asking the questions about being effective, and that really goes back to the awareness is being effective, effective, efficient, and purposeful. So how do we stop being that? Well, what purpose does it serve? For example, I just finished teaching a session on a tool. A tool that is used by a lot of people is a CRM. You might know, you all may know what I'm talking about, but it's a very highly used system. What I've noticed is a lot of people get the systems, they get the programs, they get the tool, but they still don't know how to apply it. Like, what is the purpose? So it's kind of like the things, even I have all these extra things on my phone. I know that my phone can do more than calling, but usually that's what I use it for the most, my calling and my scheduler. Everything else is, gravy, right? I guess as long as I can see my calendar and I can call is usually what's good. So what happens there though? How do we understand the root problem? Is we have to also ask what is the purpose. And the tool really doesn't have the value that we think it does when we invest in it or purchase it if we don't also understand the purpose. How do we get into the root problem is by systematically asking those questions. For example, too, like my heart. My heart, people couldn't tell. You look at me, you wouldn't see my heart is beating fast. There's no way. You wouldn't notice that. What would you notice? My breathing. My breathing will either be shallow or it will be super fast, like that, right? Like, so it looks like I'm not gonna be able to breathe. Now, people thought many times maybe I had an obstruction in my throat. So tried to do a Heimlich maneuver. I did not need a Heimlich maneuver. Okay. The other people thought maybe I was having an allergy or I couldn't, there was something wrong with my lungs. But had they not gone to the root cause, we could be treating something that we think is stuck in the throat, or we could have been treating the lung for pneumonia. In reality, it's the heart. You fix the heart, it would fix everything else. And it's just like that in businesses. A lot of times, how do you know this? Getting to the root problems is that it may be expressing itself in different things. It may be expressing itself in your customers not coming back. It may be expressing itself in your employees having a high turnover rate. It may be expressing itself in you having to pay a lot of overtime and still not producing to how you used to produce back 5 years ago. So understanding how it might be expressing, but going into that deeper question, what are the systems that are impacting this so that I can start treating the right place?
Yeah, so many people invest in systems, right, and don't know how to use them, right? So they're stuck having systems that they have no clue, and so and sometimes it can be difficult when you don't. In some cases, are don't know where to seek the help, or or find someone who can actually help you with the system. Like people just go in like they hear that this is a great system, let me just
Yeah.
purchase it and don't get the proper training into it, or find someone who actually knows the system and hire them to properly train the staff or whoever they have under them.
Yes. And that's where I come in. That's exactly where I come in. But let me tell you what, even if you don't have that, I think that the initial part is a lot of these systems, a lot of these processes, a lot of these things. Where I noticed the greatest hit was for us as a business, as an organization, was in our identity. Because in a time of confusion and a time of rapid change, and for us it was, where going from not only print to digital, but then also the standards, basically the compliance to changing what the requirements from the outside was quicker than what we could even find out. They just knew they were changing it. They didn't even know to what yet. And we're supposed to be building these things. In a time of that, it is even more crucial to understand your identity as an organization, as a team, because that's where alignment truly comes. Change is going to come. There's external change, there's internal change, understanding that. But what really that change does a lot of times is that it knocks you at who do you believe you are. It knocks you at your identity. For businesses, it knocks them at like, well, maybe you're not that anymore. Maybe you're really this. So then you see what a lot of times starts happening with businesses. They start changing their strategy and change the strategy and change the strategy. And really without enough time to have the data to know, well, which strategy, like it's kind of like just throwing spaghetti in the wall. We're going to try this. Now we're going to become this. We're
Those are
going to act like
six.
this, right? Yeah. And so what is that? Not understanding what the core of our business was. One thing I learned in disruption was that there is a that we still had our content, but it was different context. So the environment, the landscape had changed, but it hadn't changed our heart. And that's where I call again the heartnomics, because that is the economy of the heart, the economy of the purpose, the individual, who you are. It may be expressed differently, right? I mean, like the ways that you're doing it. You might do things virtual, or maybe you don't do the things that you were doing before because there are all these tools now. Like the AI is coming in, but there's still a place in what you brought in. Maybe what you brought in, you weren't quite even sure or tuned in into really what was the value add that you were bringing to the whole entire position or the role. So for me, what became crucial at that point was understanding what was our purpose, what was our mission, what was our vision, what were we really there for, and did this outside parts, did it change really who we are, or did it change the way that we did it? For us, it changed the way we did it. We digital books were gonna take over print books. I mean, they did, but it wasn't just the digital books. What took over was more of the adaptive learning, and even from the adaptive learning, which means that hey, if I answer this and I'm gonna get a higher level, more complex question, it wasn't just adaptive learning, but then already the knowledge and the learning, I kind of didn't need that whole complex way. I just needed to know how to apply it. So the evolution of it, we still were able to be part of that solution at different places, just understanding where our entry point was.
Yeah. No, and it's that since you mentioned publishing and everything, it is different now, right? Because now a lot of people can self-publish their books. They don't necessarily have to go in and go to a publishing house, whatever. They can actually now, with the way digital formatting is, they can just upload it, their PDF or whatever the doc up, and they could basically publish their own books. So yeah,
Right.
and like you said, yeah, if you had to evolve with it, right? You had to go realize that digital printing or digital reading was going to be the like everybody has it. So a lot of people have Kindles and they're all reading their books through Kindle and iPads and all these different things. So yeah, it was a necessity for people to flip the switch and
Yeah.
evolve.
And we weren't the only ones because I mean, before us was the media industry, right?
Mhm.
Where you used to buy the whole CD, and then like, no, I just wanted the number one song. So then we got to singles, and then it's like, I'm not even going to buy the single. I'm going to buy a stream, a subscription that gives me all the singles I want.
Yeah.
So I mean, we see that the same thing even with software, right? They're not selling the $400, $500 license anymore. Maybe they're selling now a subscription where it's $20 per month for X amount of months, right? And you pay ahead. So you're doing business in a different way where you're starting instead of like the ownership of it, having access to it. But that's the way that the business model started evolving.
Mhm.
And that is something that for all of us, I mean, as your listeners are tuning in, it's like, don't discount what you have. What you have is valuable, it's needed, there is purpose for everybody, and that is one thing I had to understand. My start wasn't great. I really, they're very unlikely that I was gonna get to do the things that I did get to do because I was so isolated, couldn't breathe, didn't have a really like the reliable heart. There wasn't really much I could do. That was 10 years of my life to be able to, from that, be not only take have positions in leadership, but also get to train and be with such high caliber leaders globally. It's unbelievable even to me. It's like, well, how did that happen? Is being there, and I would tell that to everybody. It is those hardest seasons that do looking back at them will show you the purpose, the observations, those learn parts. I learned about systems. I understand that because there was one system that was wrong, but it impacted my all. It impacted my skeletal system, my muscular system. It impacted everything. So I understand the pain of that. I also understand being the recipient of innovation, the need to be innovative at a very critical time, which is what I have. But that surgery, I had open heart surgery that had failed. I had a heart cath that had failed. I had a whole lot of things that had failed before that. But I'll tell you, even especially now, having to come in a healthy relationship with failure in me and what it meant in my body made me that much better business leader, and overall human being. And I will tell that to everybody. That very thing that is bringing you down, your most valuable asset, will be found there. It will be tested. Yes, it will be tested. But it's digging in and looking at those lessons, and even in that failure, taking that failure as points of learning. And that's really what excellence is. We're not called to be perfect, we are called to be excellent. Perfect doesn't allow you to fail, excellence does. It is through failure that we learn and become excellent. It's only through failure that then we become innovative. And that's what we need right now. We need innovative leaders.
And it was for me. It was the transition from just strictly audio to video, right? I had a guest come on and they go, "Oh, so do you do video as well?" Like, "Oh no, I'm not ready. I don't have the. I'm just not ready." And then he asks me the question again. And the third time, by the time he got, I understood why the message, right? The message got delivered, and I said, "Yes, I do video." And I was using StreamYard at the time, and I was just recording the audio. I wasn't really using the video, but he made me realize, like, okay, this is going to evolve. It's just not going to be strictly audio. There's going to be a video connection of it. So since you're already using a platform where you can record video, and it sunk in, like, he just by him asking that question, like, he wanted to get that point across, and so it took that, and since then I've just been doing video as well as the audio podcast.
That is no, is exactly right. I mean, it's really, it's digging in, right? I mean, it does take those people that will ask you, like, wait, let me take a closer look, and that's how we need each other. Honestly, that's how we need each other, because I mean, I'm glad that he did that for you, right? Like he asked and he questioned, and that's really what happens. I mean, like my story, I didn't heal myself. I had a whole entire group of doctors and parents that advocated for me, and volunteers who would come in and make my day. All I'm a result of all these people that came together for that moment, that very critical moment. And that's what's important, what you just brought up, really the importance of community, because no one ever, there was never really a moment of significance that was done solely by one person. It always takes a team, it always takes community.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's something I've learned through podcasting is the people I've connected with, the relationships I've been able to build, the skills I've been able to develop through podcasting, learning how to edit video, edit audio, just so many different things that I've learned from me just starting the podcast, and from me networking and connecting with people that have so much more experience than me. So I was able to pick their brains and learn from them. And then of course YouTube, just watching YouTube videos and watching others and what they're doing. And but it was the relationships and the friendships I've been able to build that have been the most fulfilling for me, because I've learned so much, but at the same time I've been able to share some of my knowledge with them and help. So it's been a place where, yes, I'm growing, but with some of the knowledge that I'm gaining, I'm also able to share with others and help others grow as well.
Oh,
So that's what,
100%.
that's what I love about the networking.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. That's why with like with Heartnomics, I want to make sure that what was the message is transformation through love and excellence. It takes love. And I know people are like, you're talking about love in corporate America. You're talking about love and that. Yeah, I mean, we've tried it the other ways, right? We tried isolation. We've tried just task oriented. We've tried all these other things. How about we give love the most powerful of emotions, and what we're asking our leaders to be, right? I mean, we want people to connect with their customers. Sales is an entire transfer of emotions. That's
Mhm.
all it is. You're transferring trust. Well, you can't trust if you don't have love. Like that is an outcome of love is trust, having a very trustworthy relationship, and all of that's built with other people. You can't build that with somebody else. So a community, being connected with other people, is going to be key to be able to be that leader with those processes, to be able to come up with those solutions, that evolution that we need. Just like you evolved from video, from video to podcasting. You did an evolve you evolved in what you did, and it was because somebody else also asked you that question, and brought you and in essence held you accountable to your own gift.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
What can leaders maintain? How can leaders maintain clarity when pressure is high?
Going back to understanding purpose. One of the things, again, I learned in my body, actually, the cure was in oblation, was not that more and more thing they needed to do. I had too much of a good thing. I had too many electrical nodes. They had to burn away the nodes so there would be clarity. So there would be a clear pathway for the electricity to be able to go through the heart so the heart could be well. Lean Six Sigma does the same thing. It's not about taking on more things, like, right, all the ways are overproduction, over processing, things that are beyond what's needed. So not necessarily going above and beyond an inventory. Definitely that's not going to help. That's going to go make your company go broke. You need to provide the right amount. So what is it when pressure is high? Is understanding not what more thing do we need, but what thing do we have, and that what can we get rid of. Remember, to be able to go up, you have to let go. I mean, think about the things that actually that we move up. You can't. How fast you travel. Have you ever traveled with a lot of baggage? It's gonna take you. It's gonna not let you be adaptable and flexible. If your terminal is all the way on the other side, and you're running like only 5 minutes away. If you have all this luggage on you, you're not gonna make it. So a lot of times, like, what can you? What is the essential that you can let go of? And that's what happens when pressure is high. You have to know what is essential for that. But that doesn't, it really, what pressure does, it reveals what's already inside. In a company, when pressure is high, what it does is it reveals the true culture. It reveals already the things that were dysfunctional, that were masked because things were going okay at a level. And when you add on that pressure, those things that were a little bit of a problem suddenly become really big problems. So pressure is not your enemy. That's one of the things that you have to see. It's like your pressure was not brought on to overwhelm you. Pressure really was brought on to reveal you. So being open to what is being revealed at that time is just as important, because some things you see then that you didn't see before. And that's a gift to be able to see that, because then that means you have an opportunity. The opportunity to become better. Again, for us, is continuous improvement. You have to do a stress test. When you test hearts, it's called a stress test.
Hmm.
They don't diagnose you by sitting down or how your heart is laying down. No, they purposely put you in a place where stress so
Yeah.
they can see how healthy you are.
Yep.
Pressure, the same way, is adding pressure, is adding stress to your organization. Don't take it as a way to, like, oh my gosh, we're gonna, like, this is the end. No, take it as that test, that assessment that will tell you where are we really, and are you okay with it. And if you don't like it, guess what? You're a leader. You have a say in it. You are able to do something with that.
But what mindset shift helps organizations move from survival to sustainable success?
Well, that part, right? I mean, survival is going to happen. I mean, it's part. I mean, we, even from newborn, right? Understand that we didn't survive alone. So what happened when, even in development as a human? Well, we needed other humans to help us. In organizations, understanding that, going from survival, your network is going to be your net worth. For your solopreneurs, understanding going to survive, how you're going to survive. Look at nature, the ones that are in packs, the ones that are in herds. Having those tight connections with those around you are going to help you move from survival to sustainable success, because you also have to have a role model. It's good that you're helping somebody that maybe not be where you're at. That is an amazing thing that also helps going from survival. But also when you can be in a room with people that are where you want to be, that's going to inspire you. So it's both, right? You have to have a combination of both. So what's going to help you? A lot of times you can't see what you can't see. If you're drowning, I'm not going to try to become a Olympic swimmer. I'm just trying to get my head up, right? So understanding, when we're talking about thought leadership, you can't, like, oh, become a thought leader, do all this stuff in social media and all this stuff, and you're just trying to pay your bills. It doesn't go. So understanding, where are you in the business? Am I at the survival mode? Or many times it's a foundational mode. It's natural. It's not a sentence like, well, what's wrong with you? Understanding there's a stage that is part of growth. Every growth has a different stage. So not using that as a judgment on you again, but using it as a way to tell me, okay, what would make me be out of survival? What are the signals that are telling me I'm in survival mode? What would tell me I'm out of it? Just being in the awareness of that, oh well, I can pay all my bills on time. I can actually have a savings account. We actually have some money outside so we can invest in new machines, or we can invest for the new position, or we can invest on a new pension or retirement plan for our employees. So then that would tell me I'm healthy. That way, at least I know, and I'm not consistently living in this, even this style of survival, and I don't even know what's going to make it better. So understanding what are the signals that are making me feel I'm surviving, and also understanding what signals would tell me I'm out of it. So that way I can work on making that gap go smaller.
Mm, absolutely. So, if someone listening feels overwhelmed, burned out, or stuck trying to hold everything together, what would you tell them today?
Breathe. I know it's simple, but honestly, breathing. Because that's one of the things. I mean, if you notice when you're running and when all this stuff, you're like, that very shallow breathing. Well, what happens with that breathing? It makes you dizzy. It makes you not think things well, irritable, all this stuff. And it's so good to take that full, clean breath. So, first of all, I tell all my leaders, breathe. Find purpose in what you're doing. In organizations, I know a lot of times when you use crisis, it's difficult. But imagine what would make the whole organization take that breath together. There, it takes just as much leadership to go faster as it does to, if not even more leadership, to go slower. But understanding there's seasons for everything. There's winter, there's fall, there's spring, there's summer. Nature tells us. We know that there's phases for development. I have 5 children. I had 4 teenagers at one time, which is, I think, I don't know which one was worse, three in diapers at the same time or 4 teenagers at the same time. So, you know, uh, there's different stages. There were things I could do or I couldn't do when I had, three in diapers versus the ones that I had when there were, 5 teenagers. There were different worries, or even now where they're at. So understanding both the season externally of your audience, of your customer, and also what season you're in, and be able to, in those times when overwhelmed or burned out, is maybe because we're trying to live in a different season, or we're trying to speed up a season that's not the time yet. You cannot speed up that time. And some things do take time. I noticed I was getting burned out when I was taking responsibility for things I couldn't control. I couldn't control my clients buying from me in a certain amount of time. I
Mm,
couldn't control that. I could just make an offer to them, right? But there were things that I could do to move that offer along. There were things I could do to remind them that I was here. But I could not make them buy. That was up to them. So was I going to take on the frustration or, shame or judgment for why they weren't buying? No, that was not for me to take. What for me was to take is, what did I own in that process? So I would say that I feel a lot of the leaders are burned out, overwhelmed because they're owning things that they shouldn't be owning. And they need to focus on what are the things that you can own, what are the things that you can control, in that part. How am I doing in those things? Because you don't have to be there 100% of the time, but you do have to be there 100% at the right time.
mm,
Understanding what that right time is. And for that, it's going to take you slow down, breathe, exhale, right? And think into it. You got to be purposeful. And that's why I love coaching, because coaching helps us see the blind side that we don't see. Like you had your friend who asked you the right questions and made you think, that gave you that courage to be able to take the next step. And that's what we do. That's what we do for one another. So that's exactly, you're overwhelmed, burned out, stuck. Get somebody that can help you see those blind spots, because we all have them.
oh man, this has been a great episode. We've come to the part of the show where you get to let people know where they can connect to you, where they can get more information, like basically where can they reach you at? Where can be? So here you go.
Oh, well, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. The name of my company is HEARTnomics, and you can find me on the website www.heartnomics.com. And there I have a complimentary assessment for you as well, where you can test your heart leadership. And I also have a community that's about to launch, so become a part of the community. I have a lot of nice free tools for you to help you not only be purposeful in life, but really have that fulfillment in life and leader and doing amazing, innovative, great things. So thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being such a great guest. That was awesome. I appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, thank you. The
But
great
don't
question.
leave just yet. Let me close out the show and we'll chat a little bit off the air. But thank you so much. You've been a wonderful guest.
Oh, thank you.
All right, everybody. Another great episode. I want to thank Hanna Bauer for coming on and sharing powerful insight on leadership, resilience, and building systems that truly support people. If you got value from this episode, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share this with a leader or entrepreneur who needs to hear it. And don't forget to check out everything we're building at Real Wise Global Media, and definitely go check out everything Hannah's building at HEARTnomics. Stay aligned and keep growing. Know your boy Wise does it. Peace out.